80,000 subscribers. I think some kind of thanks is in order, but it's gone midnight and I've been sitting here waiting for this to happen for a little while now, so I'm going to go to sleep. I'll think of something in the morning.
Well, it's now not the morning, it's the evening. A few days after that was shot, but do excuse me, I've been rather busy.
Another night with you.
But regardless, I haven't even been making these videos for a year yet, but still 80,000 subscribers later, and here we are doing another Q&A, as seems to be becoming customary for milestones on this channel. So I'm not going to waste any time sort of expressing my unfailing gratitude for your viewership. You already know how thankful I am. But I promised a Q&A, so here it is. Let's just jump right into it. Other than science and atheism, so to say, what other interests do you have? Well, I have to say that running a YouTube channel and being a student doesn't really leave you with much extra time for hobbies. However, other than researching science and making these YouTube videos, my other main hobby is probably music. I have a second channel, which I'll link in the description, where you can go and see some of the music that I write and that I play, but other than that, sleeping. Is consciousness a product of the brain, or is the brain the receiver of consciousness? I would personally almost certainly wager on the prior. I believe that anything to do with psychology or the human experience as a whole can be explained through Darwinian natural selection. It's a topic which I'm sure I could delve into a little more deeply, so if that's something that you would like to see, do be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Nothing to do with atheism, but do you know any other language apart from English? If you could learn a new language, would you? If yes, which one and why? Well, as it happens, yes I do. Other than English, I also speak American English, Street and Canadian English, but if I was to learn a new language, I'd certainly learn German. I don't know why, I've just always found it to be quite an attractive language. What is one topic you wish you knew more about? I am always striving to learn more about anything and everything that I can, but I'd say that specifically, I'd love to know more about history. I didn't do it at school, and it's one of the big gaps in my knowledge that I could really do with filling in. In your opinion, is it useful for atheists to read the Bible? Absolutely, for a whole number of reasons. Firstly, and I'm not trying to be facetious here, but as a believer, if you read your holy scripture from cover to cover, it can be a great way to make sure that you fully understand all of the tenets of your belief, make sure that you actually agree with it all. But also, of course, if you're somebody like me who likes to have discussions about these sorts of topics, then having an understanding of the opposition is one of the best ways to win any debate. Thirdly, I think it's worth noting that all religious scripture, and for me the Bible particularly, is filled with much poetry and many stories which are inspiring and beautiful. You don't have to believe in what you're reading to be inspired by it or to enjoy the narratives. And the great thing about being a non-believer reading Holy Scripture is that you can just take the good bits from holy books and adopt them into your philosophy and ignore the bad. Oh wait, they do that anyway, don't they? Have you ever visited America? No, I haven't, but I plan to and would absolutely love to. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? Probably in America. Out of curiosity, if you had to choose a religion, which one would it be? Well, if you absolutely forced me to adopt a religion, then I suppose it would have to be Christianity, because at least that way I could become a pastor and become a multi-millionaire. What kind of tea do you like? Almond flavoured. All day. Do you believe in any type of spirituality at all, e.g. karma? No, I don't. However, I do believe in a practical karma. You do good things to people and you'll probably get good deeds in return, but that's not a spiritual thing, that's just common human decency. Hi. Hello there. What is your opinion regarding the arts and its relationship with religion? Well, I think it would of course be foolish to attempt to deny the impact that religion has had upon art and literature and music over the centuries. However, as Richard Dawkins has mentioned, we don't know what Michelangelo's ceiling would have looked like had he been commissioned to paint the Natural History Museum. Not to mention the fact that we have a wealth of artists and musicians and writers spanning the centuries who were atheists. It seems that inspiration can be taken from anywhere, and religion happens to be one of those sources. Which argument do you think is the most underrated argument against God? Well, there is one that has always stood out for me in my mind that I haven't seen articulated in many places, which is assuming that your opponent believes in evolution here, at what point did God begin caring? Okay, we know that God cares more about humans than he does about other animals and favours them over other animals. But if he didn't care so much about the apes which constituted our ancestors, then at what point along the evolutionary tree towards Homo sapiens did he decide, okay, this is now my favourite species? Again, I think this is an example of how evolution is a bit of a kick in the teeth to theology, if not entirely dismissive. And that is an important thing I think I should just briefly mention. Many people are under the impression that believing in evolution is mutually exclusive to believing in God. You can do both at once. There are troubles with believing in both at the same time, but they can be overcome with sufficient theological arguments. However, to believe in evolution, you don't have to absolutely believe there is no God. I think that having that attitude can dissuade people who do believe in God, even in an agnostic sense, from wanting to learn about evolutionary biology, which is one of the greatest things on the planet, so we definitely don't want to be doing that. What do you do when confronted by a Christian extremist or fundamentalist? To me, the best way to show somebody that you're arguing with, or people who are watching your argument, that their position is untenable, and this is particularly apparent in the case of extremism, you just follow their argument through. You take it to its logical conclusion and show this is why it doesn't make any sense. You effectively concede that they are correct, and then you say, okay, so I believe you, you're right, but what does that say about this, or how does that explain this? And you keep bringing up contentions such as that until they realise that maybe their position isn't so true. Who is your favourite Beatle? Anybody but John. What subjects at school do you study? If by your question you mean what subjects should I be studying for the exams that I have coming up, which I've entirely neglected in favour of YouTube, then the answer is politics, philosophy and sociology. In your respectful, honest opinion, what is the most flawed religion? I think a lot of people here will just expect me to jump to Islam, and in terms of practical implications, I agree that Islam probably poses more of a problem today than any other religion. However, I think it depends on when you're asking the question, because if every single person fully and wholly followed their religions to the letter, followed every single commandment laid out in their holy scripture, then there's an argument to be made, a very tenable argument, that the Bible is actually worse than the Quran. So it just depends on when you're asking. Where would you say you stand politically? What is your favourite thing about your country? Probably the architecture. We have castles, which is cool, but specifically here in Oxford, having the university buildings, the architecture is just stunning. I almost wish that I wasn't born here, because I'd love to just be overwhelmed by all of the buildings upon sort of visiting for the first time. So if you haven't been here and sort of looked at all the amazing buildings that we have around this wonderful city, then I couldn't recommend it enough. What are some of your favourite films? The other night I rewatched Django Unchained, and I'd actually forgotten just how much I love that film. But generally speaking, my go-to sort of favourite film, or film franchise if that counts, is Star Wars. I've always been a huge fan, as is probably quite predictable if you know me. And if you're interested, my order goes 5, 4, 6, 3, 7, 1, 2. Yeah. Who or what inspired you most to do these kind of videos on YouTube? Honestly, bad YouTubers. Or in general, I think the online community of atheism and religious debate was kind of tainted by this horrendous arrogance that I found in self-righteousness, which, you know, these people have every right to do, but I just believe that there was a slightly better way of going about it, and so I sort of tried my luck. But if you're really interested in hearing my story about how I got into YouTube and sort of why I do what I do, I was interviewed by Hemant Mehta on the Friendly Atheist podcast. I'll leave a link in the description down below, and we discussed exactly that. What's your favourite fictional book? Ooh, that one's got to be a toss-up between any of the Sherlock Holmes books, Gatsby and the Bible. Why don't you show us your chest of drawers anymore? Well, we actually had to sell the drawers a few weeks back. They were taking up too much space and we needed the money. I'm only kidding. I tell you what, 100,000 subscribers, I'll bring the drawers back. But in the meantime, my plan is to go on to the original statuses where I asked for your questions and answer some of the questions there which I didn't have time to answer here. So go and check that out if you're looking for more Q&A goodness. But in the meantime, I've been Alex J. O'Connor, or Cosmic Skeptic. You can follow me on social media here. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.